All right, we live. Uh, me and Doaz TV, and we just about to break this thing down. This whole facade of the um, family issues and a lot of other things, nuclear Armageddon, and so forth and the like. And actually, this Bible talks about it in Scripture. It talks about the war of Armageddon. It just might be funny that he's bringing that up. So they're actually throwing all types of signs and symbols at us right now. But a lot of people are not catching what they're saying. They're actually telling you. It's like a good old playbook written out. That's what they're doing. It's kind of interesting.
Textbook blueprint.
Yeah, and we need to understand the blueprint.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for having me on here, King BJ. It is a pleasure.
No problem. Um, it's kind of interesting that you discovered me, and I just happened to just discover it's actually good that you discovered me where you did, and I came on your show last week, so I might have to come over there. I'm gonna come back over there again very soon. Actually, it's very interesting. Um,
Thank you. You are very welcome anytime.
yeah, I watched your I think you had a tribute to movie night or something the other day. Is that right?
Yes, I do those often.
You had something else. I forgot what the other one was. It was interesting.
I did one on Ray Caruth. I'm not sure if you remember him
I know
or not.
Ray Caruth just played
Yes,
the Panthers. He had he was the one who killed the lady. Well, no, he shot her, and the baby had to be born early, and he got cerebral palsy.
he was convicted of the conspiracy to do so. Actually, someone else did the shooting. She was shot 4 times. However, even though she succumbed to her injuries, the baby was born and he graduated in 2021. So, congratulations to her son, Chancellor Lee. So it's basically a story of tragedy, but triumph as well. So I wanted to make sure I did something on that to let people know that you can overcome adversity. You just have to have faith and perseverance and that love, which he has from his grandmother. She has been there and she will continue to be there for him.
Hmm. Well, let me get started with this good old video, and where's my dang on other phone? 'Cause these people ain't that. They've been. Hold on, let me get this straight. 'Cause I gotta read this because these people not too too bright these days. Let's see. Fair use copyright disclaimer on Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news report, teaching, scholarship, education, research. Fair use is the use permitted by a copyright statute that otherwise might be infringing. All right, that's cool. Got it. I had to make sure I, put that out there.
No worries.
Headlines following his interview with Fox News' Tucker Carlson last week. During his sit-down with the conservative host, Ye argued that politicians, Democrat and Republican, only see Black people as poll numbers. Here's a snippet.
Politicians, all Black people are worth is an approval rating. The Democrats feel that they don't owe us anything, and Republicans feel that they don't owe us anything. Blacks have never demanded something for our vote. And that's something I talked to Ice Cube about. What are we asking for? How do we change our life? If all of our organizations and all of our colleges and even our title as Black was made by white people, all of our jobs and Black Wall Street, Harlem after gentrification, there's never been a fully Black-owned community where we have all the municipalities, things that Dr. Claude Anderson talks about. We need that.
Here to discuss Ye's comments is host of the Straight Shot No Chaser podcast, Teslyn Figaro. Teslyn, welcome back.
Thank you so much for having me.
Our pleasure. So what did you think of Kanye's remarks about the Black voters and whether they've, gotten what they wanted or even asked for anything?
Yeah, typically, and I know Bree follows my work, I am usually about the message and not the messenger. But in this case, Kanye's comments are in bad faith. He is not the best messenger for this particular message. In fact, it is acting more like a mascot, and I reject that. It is message over mascot. And the reason I'm saying this is because many of us have been demanding more for the Black vote by Democrats and Republicans. We demand more from Democrats and Republicans. But while we were pushing that message, Kanye was running around saying slavery was a choice. So I cannot conflate my thoughts with Kanye's. No matter how bad I want someone on a major platform to demand more for Black voters, we have to be very careful in this case and make sure that we are not using mascotism. That's a new word that I just came up with, mascotism, and make sure that we are spreading the message and doing it the right way. 1 minute, Kanye is rocking a White Lives Matter shirt, which is the anti-Black Lives Matter. And then the next minute, he's talking about respecting Black voters. He has to make a choice. 1 minute, it's not about race. And then the next minute, he's calling upon the Black community to support him and his Black children. I will not allow Black American voters to be used by Kanye no more than I want to allow Black American voters to be used by Democrats, to be disrespected by Republicans, and to be unheard by progressives. This is a very serious subject, and I would love to talk about it more once Kanye is out the mix.
Yeah, it's a difficult position because when he started kind of playing footsie with these sorts of ideas and being critical of the Democratic Party back in 2016, it wasn't just him, right? There were a lot of people. I remember Chance the Rapper came out and made some supportive statements of him, saying that, Democrats, Black people rather don't have to be Democrats. And I remember back then, I think in 2018, writing a supportive article for Chance the Rapper in Rolling Stone magazine, because I think that there is a real there's a really important argument to be made about what happens to Black voters if their votes are assumed to be devoted to the Democratic Party. You don't see the same kind of courtship that can sometimes happen with voters like Latino voters who are more divided, less partisanly, sectioned off in the way that Black voters are. You see people actually bidding for their attention and offering things substantively from a policy perspective, whereas Black voters are told, like Joe Biden did during the election season this past 2 years ago, that if you don't vote for me, you're just summarily not Black. So it is useful to want to have that conversation. And as you pointed out, Ice Cube was a part of that conversation. There were other hip hop artists and others who were frustrated with the assumption that Black voters were going to fall in line without being given anything in return. And those people were vilified. And it was argued that they were, at that time, mascots, if you will, for the Republican Party and Republican interests. And Kanye doing this after the years that he's had of, wearing the MAGA hats and frankly not making much in the way of demands from the Republican Party has, I think, given credibility to those attacks. But separate and apart from Kanye.
Hold on, Bree, 1 second. Hold on. Because Ice Cube was not looked at as a mascot. I want to kind of back up on what I mean when I say mascot.
But unfortunately, Tesla, I think that he was. I don't think it was fair, but he was definitely vilified.
Let me finish my point. I've been vilified as well. I'm talking about among Black voters. I'm talking about among Black Americans. Ice Cube has always been respected by the Black community. So let me be clear in what I'm saying. Yes, we've been vilified. I have talked about we need more for Black voters. I've been going on Fox News for 6 years saying that. It's in my pinned tweet. What I'm talking about now is Kanye is not the right messenger. Ice Cube has always had respect from Black America because he has consistently talked about Black America. He has consistently talked about the importance of Black.
All right, that's kind of interesting. What are your thoughts on that?
I absolutely agree. I believe that, and this is my opinion, and the opinions expressed by me as your guest, and if anyone else comes up, is that of mine, not of YouTube, Google, nor its affiliates. now that I have that disclaimer out the way, I agree. I believe that Kanye has been a pontificator, if you will, when it is advantageous to him. You saw him back in Katrina, where he held up a sign. Do you remember that sign that he held up? That
What, George Bush hate black people or something?
absolutely.
Okay.
And it, I don't want to really put him in a box of a Al Sharpton type, or what you may call as a ambulance chaser, but where there is smoke, you see him. And I'm not sure if many people really understand that the Democratic Party, when it was once formed back in 1828, is more than just the color blue. I don't think people really understand that. I know that growing up, I don't want to call them olden people, but that's how we know it. That's how we were brought up. Democrats are for people of color. But if you really dig deep in your history, you will see that's not really the case, because it was primarily built on Martin Van Buren and every state behind war hero Andrew Jackson. If you do your history, that's not really edifying our people. So I believe she was spot on. And when she mentioned Ice Cube, she's absolutely correct in my opinion. He was vilified by many, and he stated specifically he was for whoever would listen to him about what it was going to be done, or at least put on the table for our community. Your opinions, please.
You're right. You got a point. But I look at it more so that then at the end of this video, she talks about he's going to Jewish people and things like that. And I said that really tell you the truth. She's actually, to me, running interference. She might have some points, but then again, to me, she don't really have no point, because in this case, when he mentioned Dr. Claude Anderson and other things, I look at it more so like, well, he brought a lot of things to light in those interviews last week, and people want to hassle. But really, to tell you the truth, the reason why they started the black and white thing didn't work so much. Then he said something about Jewish people or something, and then everybody say, "Oh, he's anti-Semitic." And like he said, I can't be Semitic because black people can be Jewish too. So he made a lot of good points.
And
So
that's what I wanted to ask you. Has Whoopi Goldberg said anything about this latest?
I haven't checked on them.
Okay, I need to do that, because I remember she found herself in hot water several months ago. But you have to remember, and I already know that you do, but maybe others do not. Um, and I'm not going to say the name, but uh, the J people respectfully own media. And if you step the wrong way, you can be vilified. We saw this with Nick Cannon, who had to apologize 10 times and more. And many have done that. They may not have really, and I don't want to say that he didn't feel sorry, but I feel as though he was compelled to do so because of his celebrity, because of his status. And that's just my opinion on it.
Well, that's interesting.
I mean, do you recall him wearing the turbans and how vocal he was? And the minute his foot crossed that plane, he was targeted. He was targeted from both sides, actually.
Well, that's very interesting. He
And
was
again,
targeted
I would
from both sides.
implore, and I would implore people.
What is the real story of January
Hold on one second. Don't
Sure.
January 6th? Many people have asked that question. Some people have.
Doesn't get.
Okay, go ahead.
No, I was just saying that I just think it's important for people to actually study both the origin of the Democratic and Republican parties. And that was just my final thought on that.
You got a point with that. That makes sense. Well, people need
Thank you.
Well, next topic, let's get to this little piece of information.
Awesome.
Gabbard joins us tonight, and we're happy that she is. Tulsi Gabbard, thank you so much for coming on tonight. That was quite a statement. I'm listening to this, and I'm thinking, we have Republicans on the show from time to time. They don't
put it as clearly and bravely as you do. So how do you feel? I mean, you've been in this party a long time. You were its future. You left. I mean, this has got to be kind of a fraught moment for you.
You know, Tucker, as you know, I've always been an independent-minded person, Democrat, yes, but an independent Democrat. And my loyalties are very clear. I love our country. And I took an oath, both as a service member, as a soldier, as well as a member of Congress, to support and defend the Constitution. And that's an oath that I take extremely seriously. And so when you look at this party, the today's Democratic Party, it's controlled by fanatical ideologues who hate freedom. They despise the Constitution. They actively find ways to undermine our God-given rights enshrined in the Constitution, like freedom of speech. If you say something and I say something that they don't like, instead of saying, you know what, agree to disagree, live and let live in the traditional liberalist kind of way, no, that's not good enough. They will do all that they can to destroy you, silence you, smear you, work with big tech, work with corporate media to actively destroy anyone who dares to even question their agenda. They are against freedom of religion. They are hostile towards people of faith, people who have their own spiritual practice, especially Christians, finding ways to be vindictive, to discriminate, to punish people who happen to exercise that freedom of religion. The list goes on, but the foundation of freedom is really what was at the heart of my making this decision, that I cannot be a member of a party that is against freedom and actively trying to undermine it.
Well, it was inspiring to hear that, but also disappointing. I mean, I feel like printing out your words and asking every Republican candidate who comes on this show to read them. And if you can't read them, I'm not voting for you, right? I mean, why is it so hard to say out loud? First of all, the people who are always talking about racism are committing it. Why is that so hard for people to acknowledge? It's so obvious.
It speaks to the whole environment of fear that those in power, these elitists in power, have fomented, to where people are afraid to speak the truth. They're afraid to exercise their right to free speech because, hey, you might lose your job, you might be canceled, you might be trashed, and God forbid in Washington, you might not be invited to the cool kids parties. You might not be as popular. And this is really what it comes down to, is rather than taking a stand for peace, for prosperity, security, and freedom of the American people, we have too many people in Washington who are warmongers, subservient to the military-industrial complex, and continuing to put their own selfish interests or the interests of their donors first, with no mind for the cost and consequence that their decisions have on the American people. This is exactly what we're seeing right now with President Biden and leaders in Congress whose decisions are actively pushing us to the brink of a nuclear holocaust, of which they may have their bunkers where they'll be safe, but we, the American people, will have no shelter, no place to go, no place to hide, and face the consequences that could destroy all of humanity and the world as we know it.
You were the first person I heard say that back in February when this all started. I believed you.
That's why I ran for president.
Well, it turns out you were absolutely right. Really quick, since you did serve for so many years in the Congress, in the party you just left, you know everybody, of course. Has anyone called you today, your former colleagues, Democrats, to say anything to you?
One got in touch with me and sent me a text message with 3 thumbs up.
I would love to know who that is, but I'm glad you're influencing people. Tulsi Gabbard, I'm not going to ask you what you're doing next. We will all watch, but I hope you'll come back on the show soon. Thank you.
I look forward to it. Thanks.
Hey, so what are your thoughts?
Interesting. I'm wondering what may have occurred behind the scenes that we may not have heard about just yet, seeing as though she was in there since 2012. And also noteworthy, she made history as being the first American Samoan to practice Hindu. And she's saying that she basically can't take it anymore. She wants out. I can understand that and her reasonings, but again, for her being in for so long and she's seen these talking points she just spoke of for so long, what was the straw that broke the proverbial camel's back?
Well, she told you that they're against freedom and things like that.
Yes.
So she gave you some reasoning.
Yes, but she's been in it for a while.
I do think she's on Emily's list. And Emily's list is a group that supports abortion. I gotta look it up and see if she's on that list still.
Okay.
She might be. Most Democratic candidates to be on the Democratic Party, they support abortion. So that's either that.
Okay.
Now, that's even if you go back and look at Kamala Harris, she had a conference in front of Emily List early in the summer. So that's how it goes. Okay, now let me go to one other person, Joe Biden, nuclear.
Yes.
Building your online business? Go to Wix.com and set up your...
President Biden's comments regarding Russian President Vladimir Putin's possible use of nuclear weapons is raising new concerns about the war in Ukraine. The president warned on Thursday that he takes Putin's threats seriously and that the world is closer to Armageddon. This as a counteroffensive by Ukrainian forces has Russia losing ground and its military on the run, as Charlie mentioned. Christina Ruffini has the very latest from the White House. Christina, good morning.
Good morning, Dana. Well, President Biden didn't respond to our shouted questions about those remarks yesterday as he boarded Marine One, but that same language is now being used by the Ukrainian president, who said in an interview he believes Russian officials are laying the groundwork with the Russian public for a potential possible future use of nuclear weapons.
I think that it is dangerous even to speak about it.
In an interview with the BBC, Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky said he doesn't know if Russia will use nuclear weapons, but he and President Biden agree on the consequences.
I agree it is an Armageddon. It is the risk for the whole planet.
That word first uttered this week by President Biden at a closed-door Democratic fundraiser in New York, where he said, quote, "I don't think there's any such thing as the ability to easily use a tactical nuclear weapon and not end up with Armageddon, the risk of which, he added, the world hasn't faced since the 1962 Cuban Missile Crisis. Russia has an estimated 1,000 to 2,000 short-range nuclear weapons at storage sites around the country, including one close to the Ukrainian border. They could be launched from an aircraft, from the sea, or from the ground by a nuclear artillery shell. Here's one being tested by the U.S. Army in the 1950s.
This would be a serious mistake by Putin, but he needs to know that in advance so we can stop it from happening in the first place.
Congressman Mike McCall is the top Republican on the House Foreign Affairs Committee.
If we see any indication from the intelligence community that he is taking steps forward to launch a nuclear threat into Ukraine, I think we need to show that to the world.
The White House says President Biden's comments were not prompted by any specific evidence. A White House official tells us just a growing concern about Putin's rhetoric, which that individual called, quote, reckless and irresponsible. Now, in that same interview, President Zelensky was asked if Ukraine wins the war, does he think Putin survives? After pausing for a second, he said, quote, I don't care. Dana?
I'll take it. Thank you, Christina.
Interesting.
That's what I wanted to get to.
Yes. Also, a report came out today that NATO will definitely push ahead with long-planned nuclear exercises. And the exercise has been called Steadfast Noon, which is held annually and usually runs for about 1 week. So in my opinion, Putin isn't backing down. I think he's going to go forth with this quote unquote testing. And I do not believe he's the only one. I believe North Korea is going to be doing the same against South Korea, if what I read earlier is accurate. So we have a lot to be concerned with.
Well, he's not exactly really what they would call the corporate here, as they would say. I wouldn't believe. I think that he's more like just, Biden is just saying, but I think the U.S. is moving more saber rattler than anybody. But it is what it is. So that's how it goes.
Well, how do you feel about the statement that Putin is insisting he's not bluffing and that he'll use every resource available to defend the Russian territory?
It's pretty interesting. Well, hey man, he's already annexed for a reason, so he's doing what he said he's gonna do. So it is what it is. We just gotta be ready.
And with that, what do you think that means from your perspective for the United States and for our military here and abroad?
Abroad, it could mean it has some dire consequences, but here, I'm gonna tell you. I sent you the thing last night. I think I did, when it said that transgender women have to participate in the military, but transgender men don't. So that means you register selective service, they might be trying to send your butt to war.
You know what? I did briefly go over that, and that is controversial in my opinion.
Yeah. Because if you imagine,
extremely.
Yeah.
And if you think about it, who is most likely as far as demographics in that category? Hi there, G. William Scott and Hannibal. Good evening. Who do you see in that demographic that you just mentioned?
18 to 25.
That, and as far as it goes with hue is concerned.
Oh, black.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So do you see this as additional, as we spoke of when you were on my platform, of depop, possibly?
Oh, yeah, it's a depopulation crisis.
Wow.
It's definitely a depopulation thing. Now, I don't know if I sent you the other thing earlier today about the railway workers. They're talking about striking again. Well, they said they put it on pause, but they might strike again or talk about striking. They told them they might strike after the midterm. They want more sick time off and stuff like that. So you also might have a crisis going on with food and stuff like that. So
it's continuing. It's continuing. And as we get closer to November 8th, and I mentioned this when you're on my platform, I see a lot of distraction with serious things coming about. And as you mentioned, this nuclear quote unquote threat. I never look at these as being threats because you got to look at the large cities. You're looking at LA, you're looking at New York, you're looking at DC. I mean, and not only that, people seem to forget, and this is coming from a intel point of view, you have many, many soft targets. And I think people seem to forget about. Think back to that horrible shooting in Buffalo earlier this year. I believe it was at the Tops Market. Do you remember that?
Yep.
That
I
was
remember the
that
market.
that to me was terrorism, but it was a soft target. It wasn't a monument. It wasn't the Capitol. It wasn't the Twin Towers. It was some place where people would gather to go simply pick up groceries. It's a soft target. So there are many, many things ahead that people need to be cognizant of, extremely cognizant of. And as I mentioned, when you think about the cold winter and the uptick of certain viruses, you do know, as I mentioned, that Fauci will be stepping down shortly. So you have to put that in the equation. There's so many unanswered right now. There's so many question marks right now.
It's a lot of question marks and a lot of things need to be answered as well, isn't it?
But who's going to answer them? I mean, if we have someone at the helm who obviously is not at the same cognitive level, is someone else speaking for him other than the vice president, who I don't see stepping up? At least right now, I don't see that. Who is going to be the one? Nancy Pelosi? Who?
I don't know. Might be you.
I don't think so. You couldn't pay me enough to get involved with that. And again, it's too much. I'm sorry?
You were talking about distraction, wasn't you?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, just look
I'm
at
gonna
this
play
past week. Okay.
I want you to hear this. This is definitely copyright. What is it? Fair Use Act of 1976. This is for educational purposes. This is by no means meant to infringe. This was a distraction, but I want you to understand the distraction and where they're going.
Trey Tracks, I think we got one.
It's voting season, bruh.
Now voting, now loving. Now voting, now touching. Now voting, now nothing. Now voting, now fucking, now voting, now fucking. Now voting, now loving. Now voting, now touching. Now voting, now nothing. Now voting, now fucking, now voting, now fucking. BLK app looking for some action. Why the homie Scott was hit. Face is a 9, abs is a 10, D is a to be determined. He got that joke, he don't seem broke. The only red flag is that he don't vote. This midterms for all the sick people. Wanna hit this booty, gotta do your civic duty. Now voting, now loving. Now voting, now touching. Now voting, now nothing. Now voting, now fucking, now voting, now fucking. Now voting, now loving. Now voting, now touching. Now voting, now nothing. Now voting, now fucking, now voting, now fucking.
Don't stop now, stop my ballot box again, but my hunger through. Put the bipartisan politics be so nasty. Make me wanna flirt you, show you how to be a poll worker.
Okay, now what do you think about this? I mean, this is like some daggone. This was a major distraction, but I call it a good distraction. Take your ass, stay home.
I heard and read about that, and I don't want to say coonery or buffoonery, but it's on the tip of my tongue. And if I'm not mistaken, there are a lot of high-level people that may have been involved in this project.
Yeah, we can name them. Michelle Obama's When We All Vote, Steph Curry, Shaquille O'Neal, Chris Paul.
Yes. All of them. And when I read that, I had to reread that to make sure my eyes were not playing a trick on me.
Yeah, so what are your thoughts about it? My thoughts is it's a high level buffoonery, but it also shows you what they think of you.
Again, the video, the lyrics, I already stated how I felt about that. My concern, and this is just me, is more from those who backed it, because they are considered to be the elite. And knowing this, like you just said it, how they think about quote unquote us.
Yeah. It's not a pretty picture.
It's horrible. It's an embarrassment to me. And then it just leaves a lot to think about when you look up at these people as, well, you should never put any one person on pedestal. I learned that a long time ago, but I'm really disappointed to find out, and I don't know if it's been verified or not, but the names that you just mentioned that allegedly are tied to this, I'm appalled. Absolutely. Absolutely, because I understand getting out the vote, but does it have to be delivered in this manner? And to me, the pictures that we see are absolute stereotypes I thought we've been fighting to get away from. Or am I wrong? Or am I missing something?
Well, like, first one thing you see is a gay man sitting up there daggone saying this. That's the first part you see right there.
And not only that, and again, I do not discriminate against anyone, but I'll reserve my comment, because every time I don't even want to look at that video anymore. Others were going to play it. I know this because it is something to talk about, but you're absolutely right. And when we spoke about distractions, if that isn't a distraction, well, one of the distractions, one of the many that we've seen since you and I talked the first time, I don't know what else that is, but you're right. And there are many people that have particular lifestyles, alternative, fluid, whatever you may want to call them. But to me, this was borderline flamboyant, in my opinion. What do you think about that?
This is what I think. The organization, When We All Vote, get the facts. Voter suppression, they intend to make it harder for us to make our voices heard, and especially for black and brown voters and younger people. Don't let it stop. Get the facts about your voting rights. Help us fight voter suppression and ensure your voice is heard. This is a 501c3 nonprofit organization. But the problem is with this nonprofit, if you got Michelle Obama and them about it, somebody making some profit. I always think that word nonprofit is very subjective, because these people making a lot of money and they're getting funneled by big money behind them. So when they say nonprofit, they're not nonprofit. They just got 501c3 to register that, but they're making a lot of money behind the scenes. Don't be fooled.
Absolutely. It's nonprofit on paper. There are a couple of comments there. Are you able to see them from G. William Scott?
Yeah, I know it. Yeah, that's my buddy. He's just saying he wouldn't vote for them because of this type of buffoonery.
And it seems to me to be supported and unfortunately applauded.
It is applauded by some. Let me pull up the names. See, I like to pull up the names and the acts and the facts.
Yes.
I think this is it. Michelle Obama, when we all vote, partners with Black dating app that made no voting, no fucking. Michelle Obama kicks off Get Her There education initiative. Michelle Obama print tour to promote book. People make a whole lot of money right here. All this stuff. Look at all these headlines. Executive director when we all vote to speak at Big Bethel AME Church. Is something missing here? Are you getting the picture?
The churches are behind many of these quote unquote campaigns, if you will. And they're not the small scale churches, it's the mega churches. And I explained to you when you were on my platform that my particular church, where I enjoy the word, but I did a little bit of digging and learned that it was leased until they acquired 60 million during the 2020 pandemic. It was leased by a particular federal government agency that was behind the compelling, if you will, of people to have the medication, if you will. And this pastor was and is a staunch Democrat. However, after, and this is the operative word here, after the election, he was on mainstream media right beside Maryland's governor to push the medication. So, in my eyes, someone was in the proverbial bed with one another. So, as you said, nonprofit, but you're absolutely correct. Someone profited. A lot of people have profited and will continue.
These are, well, I've been studying these guys. These are what they call social justice, environmental justice, where we all vote, climate change. We got to save the planet. Let's get jabbed and all this other stuff. They're all the same crucial characters always coming out. They ain't nothing but a small group of people leading it. But that's what Barack Obama told you back in 2008. He wanted to have a more of a civilian thing going on. These are like more like these college kids. And if you realize the college child today is, I mean, most of them, they're not all of them, but a lot of them are like they're almost like walking, talking robots. You talking about AI, you talking about the robot, they already robots. So, I mean, they just talking to talk, When you don't have a difference of opinion, you don't like to defer and have different perspectives. You actually make yourself a walking, talking robot. That's what you're doing. And unfortunately, when they do that, you see them out there with it. Now, this thing, we don't ever think about all that stuff that people, that was giving out these jabs, right? Don't they look, a lot of them don't look like doctors and stuff. They look like regular Joe Schmoes. They have them outside. You can get it at church. These are not doctor facilities. So somebody has to really, question who are these people even doing this. They don't
And not only that, King J, BJ, they also had short-term training for those to actually administer these medicines at places such as trailers or mock facilities.
And let me correct. Let me say
I'm
something.
sorry.
They weren't medicines. They were a certain type of technology, because that's when Pfizer and Moderna had their lawsuit. They said that they didn't want to. They were fighting over their intervention. They didn't say medicine. They said their intervention.
Absolutely, but to protect your channel, I'm using the word medicine, but you know what I'm speaking of. Yes. Yes. And a lot of these mock facilities are here in Maryland, not too far from the National Institutes of Health. And you know who's at the helm of the NIAD? Dr. Anthony Fauci. Yes, King BJ, you're absolutely right. So, what does that say to you or to your listeners?
You know what? If you think about it, there also was another thing there they called the NIH. It's another one. It's another one. It's another. It was a couple of 2019 Fort Detrick. They closed due to leaking of bioweapons. That was one. There's a lot of things that went on around that time. I can't think of all these things that went on, but they had so much going on. But we have to understand how to go through the smoke and mirrors. I mean, in the same dating app that launched this when we all vote was the same one who had Juvenile doing the same thing. You see, if you connect the dots, you always get it. A couple of years ago, they had get your boot into the poll and stuff like that. So, you look at it, there's a lot of things going on, but people just don't get it. Now, I'm going to ask you a question. A lot of things have been going on. A lot of things have been going on the last couple of years. What do you see the direction of the Black family? What is the direction right now? It's in a bad state, don't you think?
Well, family. Let's look at family. Well, the traditional family is the nuclear family. You have the mother, you have the father, and you have the dependent children. We saw strong families, people of color families back in the day. However, after many experiments and studies, if you will, the head was taken away or compelled to be taken away, which led the woman to become dependent on assistance. And in order to continue to receive such assistance, the head had to stay away. Then, fast forward, you come with single parent households, whether it be single mothers, single fathers. Then, fast forward, you have the fluid households. You have the extended families and the blended families. And each element, in my opinion, a lot of the generations are coming up with a myriad of problems. Not all, but there are a lot. And I contribute some of these problems to be because of the breakdown of these families. And while there are programs out there to try to restructure them, there are more programs, in my opinion, to actually dismantle what was once strong. And that's my opinion. And you can go back through time and look at the differences. As I mentioned, you had the nuclear. Then, as time went on, single parenthood, fluid, alternative, and then extended. And now we have blended. Not to say that they did not exist then, but you see it more now, and a lot of them are blatant. And people actually are okay with it. And again, I'm not passing judgment, but if you ask, where do I see our families? If there isn't something done, it's going to continue to plummet. You're going to have more resentment and division. And that's my opinion. Your thoughts?
My thoughts are it's getting worse because this article I put up there, Boston Children's Hospital says children can know they're transgender in the womb. So if you got that type of foolishness, then you will be lost.
So let's backtrack to what we spoke on a little bit before when we talked about same gender relationships. Do you believe people are born this way or they are indoctrinated?
Indoctrination.
And you feel this way because
of what they're teaching in the schools. Look at what they're teaching in the schools. Look at the propaganda they're pushing.
Well, what about those that have suffered violated type of crimes against them? And we can pretty much figure out what I mean by that. If they have been violated.
That could happen, but it's it's a lot of things. It could be lifestyle choices, Now they're saying it's better to be gay than be with a black man and stuff like that. All these, these talking points, if you will.
So when former President Obama introduced all-inclusive and marriages for everyone, how did you feel about that? Do you believe that brought the nation together or did it divide? Because he was uplifted exponentially after that.
It tore the nation apart because it made everything among religious and moral lines. So it was interesting.
So when you say moral lines, is that now a thing of the past? Is that something that we can reach down and snatch back up? Or is it too late?
The people that want to do it can do it. The people that don't want to do it don't want to do it. So I mean, it depends on who you're talking to.
Well, if you have laws and orders in place for people, and they're using the word or term now, protected groups, where do you go from there? They are protected now. So what could be said and done at one time, you cannot do that now without any consequences, which brings me to traditional folks and our rights. But where are they? Or is that something we should just say it's not going to happen, at least not in this lifetime?
Supreme Court.
That's lengthy.
I hope they
worth it, yes, but lengthy.
Somebody got to challenge them. You can't keep on getting kicked on your ass.
This is true, but then let's talk about briefly reparations. Your thoughts on that?
it depends on who's driving the narrative on that now. Because once they got the narrative, they trying to dilute it. But I would look at it like reparations. Now we need land. It can't just be money. It has to be a lot of things going on in there.
Oh, definitely not money. You know how some of our people do. They did it with Katrina. As soon as the cards came, people were buying purses and furs. And I was in just utter disbelief. But no, absolutely never just money, in my opinion. Others may have a difference, but to me, no. Absolutely not.
And
But
I would say we need we would need more so traditional gold, silver, and other things now, and things that of value. Because actually, the U.S. dollar don't have no value. That's why they I mean, you go to a bank, there ain't anybody at the bank, man. Daggone people using credit cards, man.
absolutely, precious commodities are what is needed. But again, how many of our brown and black people know about the importance and value of precious commodities and the devaluing of the dollar bill? You go to many places now, they won't even take that.
Starbucks running.
Yes, yes, Dunkin' Donuts as well. You are absolutely right. And again, a lot of these things, unfortunately, are going over people's heads, or maybe they're choosing to ignore it.
On my head, because they daggone just said last week that the U.S. economy $31 trillion in debt, so it ain't going over my head.
No, and absolutely not over mine. But unfortunately, there is a part of the population who still doesn't believe.
Let me tell you something. Let me tell you something. See, I don't really care about who likes what I say. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So, for the most part, I like natural, right? So I like natural stuff, and so a lady sent me a picture today. She had dreadlocks and stuff. It's natural, and what's up, Frank? That's my buddy right there. But we gotta understand that a lot of things going on, and I know people like their jewelry, their cars, their all this other stuff. They like, right? Let's get real. People like it, right? Let's be honest. And which is fine. But I know you're 53 years old. I'm 35, and I still have a problem with the women going to these Asian shops to get their hair done and stuff like that, and eyelashes and all this stuff. These are big in dollar industries, right? So, right, and if we could just take the eyelashes and make off for 5 weeks just to show that we're not playing. We can make some real changes, because that's the same thing you talk about purse. I mean, these hairdos are costing $200, $300, $400, $500,000. Depending on how you getting your hair done, it's a big lucrative business. We don't need that right now. That is not going to save you in a nuclear Armageddon, as he talks about. It's not going to save you when inflation is high. That stuff is material, and we have to get back to nature in a way, because if we don't, you're going to value things like that, and then it would dilute even, any economic argument that you have. So when you do this, you actually cause more problems, because they gauge what we buy. Everything is gauged on marketing. They market to certain audiences. And Shaq is the young brother that was on the phone with us on last week. Yes, but they market to audience, and when you market to us, you can tell how we market ourselves to them, because this is actually very, very insulting. And we can't have this too many more times, because we don't have a lot of time. As I always say, time is of the essence. And we don't have the time to be playing around.
Absolutely agreed. And that sells true for
low self-esteem industries. Well, not self-esteem industries, not low self-esteem per se, but self-esteem industries, because it's like vanity. But like I just said, gas is $3.59 now again, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So but when people, even when the gas was high, people were still getting their hair and nails done like nothing was going on. Like, you need to fraction that stuff off or ration it off. I mean, you're gonna have to ration food one day, so you're rationing off. You need to ration these things off. But we don't understand that.
Or it's not a priority. And it's the same with what we are consuming in our bodies. A lot of these shops, as you mentioned, they're selling these food items, these wings, and we don't know what. And a lot of these cooks, they don't even eat those foods. They're at a lower price, but who is the main consumer?
You know what? I was funny. I was in a Chinese food restaurant last week, and I saw 3 little Chinese children. They were eating some type of fish, but they were eating with chopsticks. They weren't eating what they had on that menu, though.
See? That's exactly what I'm talking about. And if you look at some of the sizes, you're wondering, what did you inject in what's on that entree? I'm vegan, so I don't do that. But back in the day, I would look at that, and again, every patron of a lot of these shops were our people. And to me, if you learn gardening, and you can start off small, it's a lot cheaper and a lot more healthier to grow your own and be prepared for not only you, but your families as well, because you don't know what's in those containers. And a lot of these places, they have these traps because heat and food, they draw rodents. And I have seen many places in this area that have been shut down because of rodent problems. So you don't think at some point, and again, this may sound a little bit grotesque, but it's real, and we're adults here. How do you know excrement or any of those droppings have never been in those containers? You're laughing, but I'm being extremely serious.
I know.
I am being extremely serious. And you wonder why people get ill. Fast food and these types of restaurants, billion-dollar industries. Not only that, they pass them down to their families, if you think about it. So they're generating generational wealth. But again, look at the consumers.
Well, the consumer is the buyer. They say the customer's always right, but who's making the money? As a matter of fact, in this case, the customer's all right because they don't even treat you right half the time.
You have a point there. Rude. And you know what?
But I've been around, like I said, I've been looking around my city, and I've been seeing all these vape shops and tobacco shops. And I said, dang, why are these things popping up everywhere? Daggone. So they selling vapes and weed pipes, and they selling it all now. They got another new market.
That's because they study our culture. They open up shops on every corner. And again, who is the main consumers?
You're right.
Even with hookah. Hookah is huge now. You go into and the people that I see selling those are Middle Easterners that are selling the hookah. But guess who the main consumers are?
Once again, us. Now, let me ask you one more question, before we depart. I got to bring this up because we talked about this last week. We're going to bring this up. And we're going to talk about it probably for about 10 minutes. It's going to be a loaded question. Got to bring this up. We're going to talk about the state of the Black church. What are your thoughts?
The state of the Black church?
Yes.
I believe that there are going to be more that are going to be developed. I believe there are going to be more people. A lot of them closed now. I'm sorry?
A lot of them closed during the pandemic. Man.
And a lot of them were built. Mine, as I mentioned, acquired 60 million during the pandemic. State of the art. They have schools, they have classrooms, but guess what they don't have anymore? And this is the telltale sign, which made me give them a huge side eye. And when I mentioned something about it, not one person ever responded. And each church, as you know, they have different ministries. And when I first joined one of the ministries, I joined the women's ministry and then also the health ministry. Take just a wild guess on which ministry disappeared.
The health ministry.
Bingo. No talks about nutrition, weight loss, how to strengthen your immune system, but you acquired 60 million during the pandemic to build another church. So in answer to your question, I see more mega churches growing because, as I said, people are in the proverbial bed with one another. I mean, this is another topic, but if you think about contracts, the sealed bill contracts, the subcontractors, these people know one another. This is all a game. It's not happenstance.
Have you ever heard of the term called the rules of engagement?
Absolutely. And I actually saw that movie. That was one of my favorite movies.
Well, doesn't this sound like part of the rules of engagement?
It most certainly does. But as you said earlier, one must understand and actually see and observe. So, because I forgot the name of the form, there are so many things that can be written off. And then you see a lot of them advertise about giving away food to the homeless. Well, if you look at some of the stories, and I'll try to post some links up of people that actually complained that some of the canned food items that were given away were expired. Well, we should know, well, most of us know, I know as a vegan, if you have a can of soup or corn, okay, it's food, but if you turn it around and actually read and examine the labels, the sodium content alone are at dangerous levels. And I don't think many people think about that.
Well, I don't eat hardly no vegetables out of no can, so that's not good. That's not good.
But when you're someone that is compelled to receive these items, you may not even know the nutritional values or how to read labels.
Conference last week. Sorry to cut you off, but you had a
No
nutrition.
problem.
They had that nutrition conference at the White House probably about 2 weeks ago, and they were talking about the bad food that people were eating and things like that. They said that government shouldn't let big companies to be involved in the food. They were talking about high fructose corn syrup, but you gotta understand something. High fructose corn syrup, all these things have been causing diabetes and cancers for years, and they haven't done anything about it. And actually, to tell you the truth, believe it or not, I am an LCA personal trainer, and I have a nutrition certificate, so I know all these things, right? So this is not, he says only 5% of the money is collected by many churches are raised.
I agree with G. William Scott. I absolutely agree with G. William Scott. I know business owners that go to places that have produce that's left over, and they will actually box them up. They'll put it out on social media and tell them where they are and tell them all they have to do is drive up, no questions asked, and they have enough to feed their families at least for 3 or 4 days. And some of these churches, not all of them, but some of them, again, they get these canned items that, as I said, the sodium levels, some of them are even expired. What are you going to do with that? Boxes of cereal, huge family size, stale. It's repulsive when I think about it. And they have 2 or 3 tithing sessions, then before they move into the new one, or those that are trying to acquire another location, you have the building fund. And don't forget, when the holidays come, they have a special offering for pastor and first lady for all the work that they've done the past year.
And what work was that?
And can you imagine
and
the amount of money that I know one church in particular. I kid you not, it's in Maryland. They have 3 different locations, and that pastor and first lady, they have a helicopter. They have a helicopter. Tell me how that's possible.
Well, that's kind of interesting. Well, shows the sign of the times.
But this is what they say, that the church is a place or a hospital for sick people. You have problems, you go there to fellowship, you go there to hear the word. But then somewhere or another down the line, the word gets a little bit convoluted, and then some of the people there are placed there for reasons I'm not going to go into right now. But again, you just have to be cognizant. Look at those that are on the front row and where they live, and then look at some of the people who actually come through the doors. Some have to pay for ride shares to get there to hear the word. They don't even offer shuttles for these people to come to their church, and they have 3 huge churches, and again, a helicopter. To me, that's a sin, but that's just my opinion.
Well, the sad state of reality there. But nevertheless, it is what it is. I thank you for expressing those thoughts. The same things I have, but I will say they're brought into politics. And when you buy into politics, you can't be bought. Now, this is a question I got to ask you. How can people find you once again?
Oh, I'll put my let me see if I can put my channel in. This has been an awesome conversation, and I hope to have many, many more, because you have plenty to talk about. More people need to talk about it. I'm not sure if it's because they may be a little bit afraid of censorship, because we know on social media how that is. But we have to get the truth out. I just put it in there. G. William Scott left a message.
He really dedicated church to never grow in our community, because once they're small and not prestigious enough, once again.
Absolutely.
Goes to shop. Okay. That's what Frank Davis said.
It's true, though. I mean, look at some of the, I call them prosperity preachers. And then some of them may not even really be preachers. They may be, I look at some of them as being, what is the word? What is the term you call these people, where they encourage you? Inspirational speakers or motivational speakers. I would much rather give them that title than preacher, from some of the behaviors that I've seen. And again, this does not apply to each and every one, because of course, there's no way in the world I would be able to know each and every one. But the ones that I have visited, I'm talking about the mega churches. And I've heard horror stories where people have needed help when they've fallen on bad times, but because they haven't been consistent tithers, they were turned away.
Yes, it really is a shame. But that's the way. So can people, go to Doe Eyes TV? Can they contact you through Cash App or whatever the case may be, as they say?
Oh yes, it's on there. But you are welcome anytime I am live. Yeah, and anytime you go live again and have these topics, because the nuclear part, and I know it's getting late, I think that's something I would like to touch on again. And then when we were talking about same gender relations the very first time, my audience was really, really intrigued with you, and they want that conversation to continue. So whenever you're available, that's definitely something that is important and people are really concerned with.
Let's talk about that right quick, because actually, tell you the truth, I know you got a show tomorrow, right? And got a show with a friend of mine, and people know him well. Judge Joe Brown, isn't that right? You got a show with him tomorrow, right?
Yes.
What time is it?
That is, oh my goodness, it's 9:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, but 6:00 Pacific. And I always get those mixed up. And on Thursday, Papa Duck will be on at 7 p.m. Eastern.
Wait a minute, Papa Duck? You talking about the guy from Florida?
Yes.
Oh,
so
wow.
You have to come. Yes. I just posted that. I was reading
I'm surprised. I've
article.
never seen him on with anybody.
I'm sorry?
I've never seen him come on a show with anybody.
You have been like a guardian angel. And I have been trying for the longest time. So yes, as a matter of fact, um, I'm going to send you the the StreamYard link. And if you have any questions, I mean, some people are going to, and I'll ask on their behalf, but because you've been so kind, I'm going to extend the link if you want. Is that somebody that you follow and you like?
Well, Papa Duck.
Yeah.
I mean, he makes these 15-minute videos, and it just be good videos. He talks about the agenda and stuff.
Yes, and we're going to be talking about AI, artificial intelligence, financial literacy, and then breaking down the meaning of words. And both of you are kind of like on the same page. So I'm going to see if he would like to field any questions. And if you're available 7:00 p.m. on Thursday, come on over. And
it could be
see
a
if
possibility.
you can have a conversation with them.
I know I got to get nephew that day, but I might be able to step in for a few minutes. I'll probably be on the road, but I might be able to step in for a few minutes. We'll see. We'll see what happens.
Okay. Okay, but yes, I just posted that.
But and if you I know you're gonna have a show with the judge tomorrow, and you can tell him BJ Bernard said that he'll know exactly what you're talking about.
Oh, most definitely. Most definitely. I'm a little bit nervous. I'm not going to be on there long, but I have the questions that I want to ask. And again, it's more so election related and about protecting the integrity of the vote. So I don't see that going long.
Yeah, I didn't even know you. Yeah, I didn't even know you had more. I knew you said something about the barbecue sauce, something like that. But
yes, you didn't see my links.
No, I saw it. I didn't know you was having more than first. I just knew about the barbecue sauce. Then I said, "Oh wow, the guy whoever the person whoever had the link must have hooked you up and y'all must have connected." But I know he'd be more than happy to come on and talk to you. So.
Yes, and I ordered, as I said, and that sauce is so good. I made vegan zucchini meatballs with it, and they came out so good. I surely did. So no, I am about supporting, but we don't always get that back. But no, I support and I reach out, and yes. So if you are available 7 p.m. on Thursday, I will definitely drop the link. So you and Papa Duck can converse for a little bit if he's open to that. And I don't think he has a problem with that. So you are more than welcome.
Well, look, I am delighted that you discovered me because so many other people have. This is actually
well, yeah. See, this is what it's about. So again, that conversation we had, people probably would have stayed on until about 2:00 in the morning because it was. Some people want to talk about things, but they're a little bit nervous. But then when they see other people talking about it, they get more comfortable and want to
have a midnight hour.
Yes.
We have a midnight hour when I come on and we'll hang out about 1, 2 o'clock or something. Let me make it clear. I'll do that one day. It may be all the time, but we're gonna do it again. I'm coming back on the next week or so anyway on your platform. So don't worry about it. I'm gonna try to make it happen.
Okay, well, you make sure though you put on your calendar for 7 on Thursday, even if it's just a couple of minutes. That would be awesome. G. William Scott left you another message as well.
She serves smaller churches that were people and community oriented. Okay, but I want to say this, and this is gonna be interesting. See, I look at it like this. We got to win. You see, the information is spreading. It's getting out there. People are starting to understand. Salute to the Negroes, colors, whites, European, etc., US. Okay, cool. Thank you, Jax Dice, for bringing it up. Patriotic clown face. But never mind. We have to understand that we got a lot of stuff going on. And like I said, time is the essence. Everything going to the scriptures is coming around. It's like the playbook. It's kind of like when you got to watching NFL and they ran a good play, a flea flicker. They throwing us flea flickers, distractions and diversions and stuff. But if we can keep straight on the target, and that's the target to, I guess, freedom, I guess. However, and after I get off the line, I'll call you and talk about some things that have been going on because I got some papers downstairs and I got to get this out, but it might not be good to talk about on here because I got to write it down. Then they might ban me and stuff. I don't really care about the banning part of the strike, but I don't even have the papers right in front of me to bring it down, so I can't use fair use because I don't have the paper with me word for word. But it is what it is. So I had to go get my final call newspapers downstairs and bring them and read them, and I'll go over it with you because there's a certain thing called VAERS data. I'm sure you know about VAERS.
Yes.
So I'll have to, but I don't have the papers in front of me. And when I'm doing this, I like to always have that paper in front of me. That way, in case the fair use idiots come around, I got my backup.
And you always have to have that because trust me, somewhere, someone is listening and taking notes. That is why you always have to be prepared. And I believe I spelled that correctly in
That's
the
right.
chat.
VAERS, Vaccine Adverse Events Reporting System. Yes.
Absolutely, sir.
But with that being said, like I said, I just want to shout out people can follow me at King BJ Johnson YouTube, kingbjmedia.com, $1919BJ Cash App. I don't have a PayPal. I'm kind of glad I don't because PayPal is getting very, very strict, and they actually talk about trying to dock people $2,500 possibly for what they consider misinformation, which I always say, who is the arbiter of misinformation? That's not a provision. But they say that, so be careful, people. I would probably cancel my people because they didn't just put that out there. They actually probably think about doing. They just got caught and they said, "Oh, we didn't mean it." No, you meant what you said.
Absolutely. And what you just said was correct. They got caught. I don't like PayPal. PayPal, I've had nightmares with them. I prefer, and I really don't like Cash App a lot, but it's better to me than PayPal. PayPal is touch and go. Sometimes they will, what they claim, put on this security measure 1 minute, but 2 minutes prior, there are no issues.
Speaking of that, let me bring up one thing I forgot to mention.
Sure.
What did you think about Mr. Biden last week talking about that he's going to pardon people on the federal level for marijuana convictions?
It's a political ploy. Election year, 2022. And he has a lot, yeah. I mean, and you had people jumping up and down, but I think if I'm not mistaken, I need to go back and reread that. But if I'm not mistaken, did he not say that was supposed to be on the federal level? How many people do you know are in the federal capacity for low-level marijuana use? I don't even think too many people know about that.
He told you 6,500.
People need to start reading and really looking and hearing, not just listening, but all of them together. I think they first read, yes, you read the headlines, but the headlines is not the meat and potatoes, it's the fine print.
Well, yeah, that was interesting what he said there. But but also y'all can give me at Bernard1121 Instagram, King BJ Fitness, there too, King BJ Fitness .com. And hey, that's like I said, Mr. Biden, he's running a nice game on us.
On some.
Yeah, but if you believe it. But they always say Can you be conned? Yes, you be conned if you create nothing to believe the same lies, tricks, and distractions. And people have been believing the same lies and tricks and distractions for over the last period of over 50 years. But with that being said, hey, it is what it is. I mean, we don't have to fall for the lie and distraction on this platform. And my buddy said we all need to do a show about vegan recipes. Yeah, we can do that, Shaq. Actually, one day. Matter of fact, I'll have you and her come on and we can all talk about it possibly. But nevertheless, let me go ahead and, as they would say, clock out. But it'd be fun. I'll give you a call back in about 5 minutes.
Okay, sure.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Have a nice night.
You do the same, and thank you. Everyone, take care now.
Right now, have a nice night.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.